Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to explain some cool music theory concepts, just give you guys some theory sauce to help you make more interesting and complex sounding melodies. And before we get started, make sure to go tap in with me on social media at inviral. But let's lock in. Before we get started, I just want to say, like, a lot of times people compare music theory to like math, where like if you integrate the hyperbolic function wrong, the rocket is going to blow up or something. That's not really a good way to look at music theory, because music theory is just basically guidelines, and it's just a way to train your ear to hear music differently. So in this video, I'm going to talk about integrals. So basically, integrals are basically, so an integral is, you definitely, wait, did I say, bro, I literally said integrals this whole time, right? Or intervals. So in this video, I'm going to talk about intervals and how to use them to make more interesting melodies. If you're already confused, like, it's not that hard because you've definitely used intervals before. When you play two notes together, that's already an interval. So those are all different intervals. So you can have a melodic interval, which is basically a note followed by another note, but they're not played together. But you can have a harmonic interval, and that's when they are played together. So you're just forming a harmony with two notes. That's why it's called harmonic. So now if we take a C major chord, you know, this is made up of a couple of different intervals. So we have this interval down here, and then we also have this, but then we also have this interval, and then we put all these together. You have a C major chord. So now I'm going to go through all the 12 intervals and help you guys understand what each one is and when to use them and what kind of color you can achieve through them. So an interval is basically made up of two notes, as I said before. So that means we can use all these notes from C to C. So the first interval that they teach in music theory books and stuff is called the unison, which is basically two of the same note on top of each other. But if you're playing those notes on the same instrument, it doesn't really make sense. So we can just say the first interval is this. So this is called a minor second, and that's pretty much the smallest distance between two notes. A lot of music is literally just based on this. So like the Jaws theme, or Beethoven actually went crazy on this also. But then the next interval away from C would be a major second, and it's this. So pretty much all of the intervals, there's a minor version and a major version. So this is the minor second, and this is the major second. So after the major second, you have your minor third. I'm literally going up consecutive notes. And then if we bump the minor three up one semitone, you get a major third. So after the major third, you have a perfect fourth, which is basically four notes away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason it's called a perfect fourth is because it has a really kind of strong sound. It's a very stable interval. So it's not really a major or minor interval. It's just called a perfect interval. So now if I want to go to the next interval, I have to raise this. And now we get the most interesting sounding interval, which sounds like this. This is called the tritone, and it's probably the weirdest interval. No one ever really used it back in the day because classical music is all about perfection and like purity. But this just sounds like, but it's still a hella hard interval, like if you want to just make some crazy shit. So the next interval is a perfect fifth. Sounds like this. The perfect fifth is another strong interval. It's a really stable interval. So 4, 4, 5. So the next interval is the minor six. Probably the most famous example of the minor six is the song Yeah by Usher. And it's used a lot in dark melodies. So then next you have the major six. The major six is one of my favorite intervals just because it sounds so open. And since it's not a perfect interval, it really wants to move around. So you can have parallel sixths like this. So next we have the minor seven. And this is probably one of the most unstable intervals also because it's really like dissonant. And then probably the most dissonant interval is the major seven. But if you build a chord with it, you know, it's way more pleasant to listen to. And then the very last interval is the octave. So that's pretty much all of them now. So obviously to demonstrate those, I was starting in C. But obviously you can have that same interval in a different key. So if I start in like F sharp, you know, this is a perfect fifth in F sharp. But in C, it sounds like this. And technically they sound different because they're in different keys, but the distance between the notes is the same. That's why it's the same interval. Just knowing the intervals alone is not really helpful to make melodies. You got to understand what kind of color the intervals have and what kind of sounds you can achieve through them. So starting again with the minor second, you know, this is really tense. You can use it to add a lot of tension. So if I'm playing an F minor, I can just add this. But the tension doesn't always have to be dark. It can also be kind of mystical and magical if you play it with a major chord. So I'm playing an F major chord down here, and then I'm gonna play a F and an E. So next with the major second, it's kind of the same thing. You can use it to add a lot of color. So I'm playing it on top of C major chord. But with a C minor, you can also add a lot of tension as well. This makes it sound more noir and dark. And I'm just playing major seconds. The minor 3 is one of the coolest intervals because you can use it a lot to make twinkles. If you don't know what I mean by melodic twinkles, make sure to check out my complex melody video where I explain that. But basically the major 3 and minor 3, so minor and major 3, are really fluid intervals and they can match a lot with different chords. So if I'm playing a C minor down here, then I'm going to play a minor 3 interval up here. And I'm just going to go up and down with this. And you can see if you go up and down with them, you're going to switch from a minor 3 to a major 3. So this is minor, but this is a major 3. So a really good example of this is Ballad Pour Adeline by Richard Clayderman. Adeline. One part of the song goes like this. And as you can see, basically what he's doing is going down by parallel minor and major thirds. And you get a really smooth, kind of dreamlike melody. So that's something really cool you can do. Next, for the perfect fourth and fifth, you know, these are really strong intervals, as I said before. So you can just use them for dark melodies. And that's literally what Take Keith did. Zigzag black boy, zigzag black boy. But also they're really good for making a foundation for your chords. So you can just literally make your chords with fifths. And like right now we don't really know if it's a minor chord or a major chord. That's going to be defined by my third. So if I play a minor third, it's a minor chord. But if I play a major third, it's a major chord. You don't really have to play it like this though. You can play just like your fifth down here and just do a really cool melody up here and just define the chord. We kind of skipped over the tritone because that's something you can just kind of discover on your own and mess around and juice everything up. So next, the minor 6 is again something you can use to add more tension to your melodies. But with every interval, the context really matters. So if I played this, that sounds really dark. But if I play the same minor 6 with an F under it, it sounds hopeful and dreamy. So after the minor 6, you know, you have the major 6. And this is another example of a really fluid interval because it really wants to move up and down. The same Richard Clayderman song is a good example of this because the beginning of it goes like this. So he's just using the major 6 to make the chords sound really open and full. So the melody just goes like this. But by playing it with the 6, it makes it sound way more full. Ultimately, the best way to use these is just to, practice and improve your ear. Hearing the different intervals is just going to help you, understand what parts of your melody might be messy and how to make it sound more smooth. But yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot of new things from this video. If you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to give it a like and also comment below what you thought of it. And also subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. But that's all I got for today, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.